Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to Americana Tradition Studios, Wes Dorethy and Derek Huber.
Day you slammed my hotel door and I watched you walk away from every memory that we had before. I ain't here to say that you done wrong, but I wish it could be undone. Not for forever, not for a lifetime, just for one night. Just for one night. Where I spent hours thinking about your hair and my face, doing things we shouldn't say, and your friends caught by the highway. I ain't saying I want you back, no, I just miss nights like that. Not for forever, not for a lifetime, just for one night. Just for one night. Yeah, you put me through hell. One day you love me, but the next you can't tell. I wish we could just let this shit go. Remember when we were friends before? Not forever, not for a lifetime, just for one night. Just for one night. Well done, sir.
Wow, guys, that sounded great. Really great. So I have to know the story about how Derek Huber and Wes Dorethy got together to play music.
Am I gonna answer this first? Or?
Go ahead. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
We did a film at Bridge Bash actually, and Wes was there with his band Patient Eyes, and they had a lot of energy, and they didn't know us from Adam, and I remember asking him like, "Hey, would you care if we got on stage with our cameras and kind of got in your face?" And there was like zero hesitation, and he was actually the only band that was really that cool with us doing that, and not only was I kind of impressed with his personality and his willingness to let us do that, but the music was pretty bomb too. So when we launched Acoustic Sessions, it was like Wes Dorethy. I gotta have Wes Dorethy on the show. So
Cool. Thanks for having me. Yeah.
I bugged him relentlessly until he became my friend.
And then, Wes, you were just all jumping right in.
Yeah. Anything and everything. I try to jump in to do it. So.
That's awesome. Well, I think the violin complemented the song really nicely. I've got to know the story behind. You don't know a lot of violin players,
Right.
And so I've got to know the story behind the violin.
Yeah, so when I was about 10 years old, my grandpa gave me this and a guitar, acoustic guitar, and that kind of started my somewhat unhealthy obsession with music. And yeah, I've been playing it ever since. So yeah, it's weird how things like that happen. You know, just all of a sudden something like that falls in your lap. I never planned on being a violin player, but here I am doing that and guitar and whatever else I can find. So.
Well, it complimented the song really nice, you know, and I could tell like it really brought a lot of emotion to the song. And Derek, I got to ask you, you know, there was a lot of emotion in that song, and writing that, where did that come from? What was the basis for that song, One Night?
You know, it's a breakup song.
All the great ones are.
Yeah, right. I mean, it's kind of the easiest thing in the world to write. But no, each verse in there is kind of like a collection of experiences that either I've had or friends have had, and just, you know, talking with friends that have went through divorce, and the hardest thing after is sort of the silence, you know. And so I kind of thought about there's a lot of people that don't necessarily want to go back, but just that concept of kind of having one more night or one more time to help heal the wound, I guess. And yeah, so it was kind of based around that. And I was actually playing music with a guy who was going through a divorce, and it was hitting him particularly hard, so kind of wrote it for him too. So it was just kind of one of those things.
Great song. Well, I'm going to kick it back to you guys for the next one.
All right, here we go. Should've just got up, should've walked off and left, shouldn't have got myself a nosebleed. Some guy kicked my ass 'cause I showed up to a party with this bride to be. You know I've been in fights, I've been wrong and right, I let the booze get the best of me. Well, we all get ours in due time, and I paid for my history. Oh, woe is me. Whoa, woe is me. Yeah, yeah. Whoa, woe is me. Yeah, yeah. Whoa, woe is me. Well, the stimulus check was meant to cover rent. Instead, we all bought marijuana and wine. You see, it's a rigged game we're all meant to lose, so don't waste your congressman's time. You could make some calls, you could write them all, and we could all go stand in line. You could go protest and start a movement, but we can't afford to pay the fines. Oh, woe is me. Whoa, woe is me. Yeah, yeah. Whoa, woe is me. Yeah, yeah. Whoa, woe is me. The economy's crashed, prosperity's over. They all want something for free. When the poor get bone, no one takes notice. Trickle down defies gravity. There's a donation box with expensive locks, so they don't have to starve and greed. I see you lost your job, but you got sweet kicks, while those in the street can't eat. Oh, woe is me. Whoa, woe is me. Yeah, yeah. Whoa, woe is me. Yeah, yeah. Whoa, woe is me.
Woe Is Me. What a great song, man. That's awesome.
Thanks, dude.
Very cool. So I understand that you two guys might be sharing the stage in an upcoming rock and roll revival. I've got to know what that is.
Yeah, so Americana Tradition is a musical brand. I don't know what to call it. It's an events company. It's a lot of things. But yeah, we're putting on Americana Tradition Presents Rock and Roll Revival. It's kind of our end of summer send-off, if you will. It's the last weekend in August. And because of this budding bromance, we've asked Wes and his band Patient Eyes actually to open for us. And, which really we probably should be opening for them, but anyway, they're going to come play an hour-long set before the Rock and Roll Revival starts, and which means I was able to recruit Wes to actually play in Americana Tradition as well, so I got a 2-for-1.
Awesome. Well, that song had a lot more rock feel to it, and I know there's going to be lots of different rock songs going on that night. But, Wes, have you guys been kind of drawn to rock music? Like, what are your influences growing up with music?
Yeah. It was kind of a weird thing because I was growing up in these bluegrass conventions and jam sessions and festivals and all that. And I was in a bluegrass band growing up, but at the same time, I was listening to rock and roll. And I joined a rock and roll band at like 16. So I had the two worlds kept colliding, and they're still colliding. So hopefully it makes for some unique sounds made along the way.
That's awesome. For anybody out there that's maybe never gotten the opportunity to hear Patient Eyes, what kind of band are you all, and what kind of music do you do, and what do y'all like to sound like?
It's a lot of our drummer kind of grew up in some like punk rock and stuff like that, and then our bass player plays a lot of shoegaze and whatnot, and then I come with the country and folk and stuff. So you can expect a lot of high energy, loud rock music with some twang here and there, some atmospheric, Pink Floyd stuff every now and then. So
that's gonna be awesome. That's gonna be a great night. I can't wait. I'm excited. Cool. I'm gonna kick it back to you guys for Life I Ignored.
All right, here we go. This is Life I Ignored. Traveling through space, going no place, just thinking about a prayer I heard once before. Life I ignored. 100 miles an hour, a crash into truth. Something by now. I should have found my source of doubt.
So the first time I ever got to hear Derek Huber perform was at the Night of Jackassery, and I gotta admit, man, the first time I ever heard your voice, I kind of sort of bromanced and fell in love with the grit and the just the way that you're able to kind of balance the harmony and the grit. And you know, I've just always wondered who are your musical influences? Like where does that come from? Who did you grow up listening to?
Yeah, I got to credit my older brother for that one. I have a brother that's 10 years older than me, so it's kind of that perfect Gen X millennial gap, and my mom was a hippie on top of that. So like literally, you know, back in the days of mixtapes, I'd be like 4 or 5 years old, and it would be like you'd listen to a Bob Dylan track, and then it'd be like a Nirvana track off of Bleach, and then a Pearl Jam, and then, you know, like Steve Earle. You know, none of my friends knew who Steve Earle was, and he's like the alt country god of the time, and I guess still is, you know. But so yeah, man. I mean, there. Oh yeah, and U2 is my, because you had mentioned, who did you mention? It was like Ethereal. You mentioned someone a while ago.
Pink Floyd.
Yes, and I'm a huge U2 fan, and so I just think it's kind of interesting to kind of tie together some of the edges, swells, and Bono's passion with the grit from grunge and alt country, and I don't know how much of that comes out in the music necessarily that I do, but that's my influences.
Well, I also really enjoy the songwriting. I mean, you know, you can tell. I said earlier, you know, there's a lot of emotion in your songs. You know, where do you go to write the perfect song? Like, where is that happy place?
Well, there's no happy place. So that's you know, like it's really hard for me to write a happy song. I don't know about you, Wes, but I mean,
it's the hardest song to write.
Yeah.
Or any song, you know, just where do you go for the inspiration to write those songs? Do you just draw on life experiences, or where does that come from?
You know, I'm not the most creative songwriter. I think the only real goal I have when I'm writing a song is that I hope that it's relatable, you know, and that's really the only word that I think about when I'm writing something is, if I am drawing off of a real life experience, I'm know well enough to know I'm not the only one on the planet that's ever had that experience. So if I'm being true to myself in the songwriting, you know, someone out there is going to have had a similar experience. And, you know, Life I Ignored is kind of one of those looking back and thinking, we look back at our life in chapters that we've lived it, and sometimes when you look back, you know, I'm sure you guys know what I'm talking about, but it's almost like your memories become like a VCR tape or something to where you're not quite sure if that was you or... So anyway, I kind of looked at that through the vein of different series of my life, and these are things that I've put away and ignored and focused on growth. And yeah, as long as I'm drawing from something that's genuine in my life, whether it's a memory that I've had, an experience I've had, or that a friend's had, then I hope that somebody feels it somewhere. And so that's why I guess I don't write happy music, or it's why I don't like pop music, you know, because it's so hard for me to relate to that. Kind of rambled on that one, but yeah.
Well, if I had to pick one word, I think I would say authentic. I mean, I think your music's very authentic in the sound and what, you know, what Wes brings to the table whenever, you know, you're playing together. If we're only playing together for, an hour?
We played together for the first time an hour ago. Yeah.
I mean, that's absolutely incredible. I mean, just the sound, and so hats off to both of you. So I'll let you take it away with the next one.
All right. Perfecting all those lines, playing out the scenes where you asked me to stay. I know it's just a play. I've seen this all before. Beauty burst in characters in chains. I've been lost and thought, well, leading me astray. How'd I end up this way? This rotates the calm, all the glitters is not gold. She's lost in the road. Now we go unknown, so tell me, did this ever exist? Spider Capulets bullshit. The lights go out, she exits the stage. This screenplay needs one more page. Are you an actress running out of lines? Is any part of you not lying? You took my breath away. I never expected anything. And now I lie awake thinking Romeo's insane. Good night. Good night. Falling self-sweet sorrow. Good night till night becomes tomorrow. Good night to love I only borrow.
I think you both are a testament to how the music scene of Mountain Home is alive and well. I mean, hats off to both of you. That's it's incredible. The song, I think that was the perfect one to kind of close on. But I've got one more question for you both. I really want to know, and I think, you know, given the times right now, I think what advice would you give to your younger self if you were starting back out in music, you know, knowing what you know now? What advice do you have for those younger songwriters and those musicians out there?
I'll save you. I'll go first. I've thought about this a lot, actually.
Thanks.
I first started writing when I was 15, and I was kind of under the impression that you just kept writing songs, and then like you had like a stroke of genius and you wrote the best song, and then you got famous, and like it had to be like this supernatural thing that fell out of you, and if it didn't happen that way, then no song could ever be good or get noticed. And I learned much later the work ethic behind it. And so like the last song that we played, I've been writing and working on the guitar parts of that song for the better part of 2 years, you know, and getting like that tune stuck in your head and not, it's easy to abandon it and go write something with cowboy chords and just bang out something easy. I would say to fall in love with the process, to stick with things, to go deeper with things. It's better to spend a year on 12 songs than it is to spend a year on 100 songs. Like, quantity is not better than quality, and I would tell my 15-year-old self that.
Do you think you would take the advice? No, just kidding.
Nah.
What about you, Wes?
Oh man, I haven't thought about this unlike Derek. I'd probably say not to take yourself too seriously, because a lot of times when I was, especially when I was younger, still now to an extent, you get this idea of like, you know, oh, I'm gonna be this, and I'm gonna write songs that sound like this. I'm gonna start a band that sounds like this, and it's gonna be great, you know. And that's not always the way it should be. And there's a real beauty into kind of letting things go. And when other people come into the picture, you know, or just writing what you feel, don't try to force it. And whatever happens, happens. You know, if you end up being like a psychedelic, punk, folk, whatever, you know, that's what it is. Because that's something you see something you really like, and you're like, oh, I want to be that guy on stage writing those songs, you know. I was like that when I first discovered Bob Dylan or Springsteen. It was like, I want to be Springsteen. But you can't be Springsteen. Springsteen's already Springsteen, you know. And, you know, never trying to force something or try to be something else would probably be what I say. But I wouldn't take my advice, probably.
Take yours either. Well, guys, great session. Thank you all for tuning in to Americana Tradition Studios. Make sure to like us on Facebook. Check us out on Instagram, YouTube. Stay up on the latest videos. We'll be pumping out some content. And thanks for being with us.
Cool. Good job, everybody.